ॐ श्रुति स्मृति पुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शंकरं लोकशंकरं शंकरं शंकराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेद विभागिने व्योमवत् व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः। Okay. Yeah, Madhavi. Okay, let's chant from 28. युञ्जन्नेवं सदात्मानं
युञ्जन्नेवं सदात्मानं
योगी विगतकल्मषः
योगी विगतकल्मषः
सुखेन ब्रह्म संस्पर्शम्
सुखेन ब्रह्म संस्पर्शम्
अत्यन्तं सुखमश्नुते
अत्यन्तं सुखमश्नुते
सर्वभूतस्थमात्मानं
सर्वभूतस्थमात्मानं
सर्वभूतानि चात्मनि
सर्वभूतानि चात्मनि
ईक्षते योगयुक्तात्मा
ईक्षते योगयुक्तात्मा
सर्वत्र समदर्शनः
सर्वत्र समदर्शनः
यो मां पश्यति सर्वत्र
यो मां पश्यति सर्वत्र
सर्वं च मयि पश्यति
सर्वं च मयि पश्यति
तस्याहं न प्रणश्यामि
तस्याहं न प्रणश्यामि
स च मे न प्रणश्यति
स च मे न प्रणश्यति
सर्वभूतस्थितं यो मां
सर्वभूतस्थितं यो मां
भजत्येकत्वमास्थितः
भजत्येकत्वमास्थितः
सर्वथा वर्तमानोऽपि
सर्वथा वर्तमानोऽपि
स योगी मयि वर्तते
स योगी मयि वर्तते
आत्मौपम्येन सर्वत्र
आत्मौपम्येन सर्वत्र
समं पश्यति योऽर्जुन
समं पश्यति योऽर्जुन
सुखं वा यदि वा दुःखम्
सुखं वा यदि वा दुःखं
स योगी परमो मतः
स योगी परमो मतः
अर्जुन उवाच
अर्जुन उवाच
योऽयं योगस्त्वया प्रोक्तः
योऽयं योगस्त्वया प्रोक्तः
साम्येन मधुसूदन
साम्येन मधुसूदन
एतस्याहं न पश्यामि
एतस्याहं न पश्यामि
चञ्चलत्वात् स्थितिं स्थिराम्
चञ्चलत्वात् स्थितिं स्थिराम्
चञ्चलं हि मनः कृष्ण
चञ्चलं हि मनः कृष्ण
प्रमाथि बलवदृढम्
प्रमाथि बलवदृढम्
तस्याहं निग्रहं मन्ये
तस्याहं निग्रहं मन्ये
वायोरिव सुदुष्करम्
वायोरिव सुदुष्करम्
Once again, चञ्चलं हि मनः कृष्ण
चञ्चलं हि मनः कृष्ण
प्रमाथि बलवदृढम्
प्रमाथि बलवदृढम्
तस्याहं निग्रहं मन्ये
तस्याहं निग्रहं मन्ये
वायोरिव सुदुष्करम्
वायोरिव सुदुष्करम्
So we completed some important shlokas of the 6th chapter. So 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, where Sri Krishna was already starting to talk about the result of this dhyana yoga, the result of nididhyasanam. Nididhyasanam itself is possible, is undertaken after Shravanam. Shravanam is a primary means of knowledge. So if somebody asks you, what is the means of knowledge for Vedanta? What is the means of knowledge for this moksha? The answer should be Shravanam. One word answer, Shravanam. Because we have to remember, Praptasya Praptihi, right? Praptasya Praptihi. Trying to get what I already have. Okay, that's what to remember. And so how can you get what you already have? You cannot get what you already have. And that's the realization. And if at all you can call self-realization, Swamiji never uses that word. If at all you can call that self-realization, I realize the mistake finally, that I've been looking for what I already have. That is the self-realization. And so then, okay, then how do I get that? How do I relax? And then that's what this Vedanta is. So Shravanam. Shastram says you are the whole. And that is the beginning of the journey. So here, Jnana Yoga Phalam, Nididhyasana Phalam is talked about. And in shloka number 31, Sarva Bhuta Sthitam Yomam Bhajati Ekatvam Astitaha. So there is a Mahavakyam there. So one who sees me in all beings. So I thought I am an individual and I am this body, mind, sense complex. And then Krishna comes and says, no, everything here is Atma. That was said in the 2nd chapter. And then suddenly here he says, I am the one who is there in all beings, which means there is a Mahavakyam. There is a Jiveshvara Aikyam. Okay, so we saw all that, and then we came to a point where Krishna seems to have paused, and Arjuna picked up, uh, found an opportunity to raise a question, and he says in 33, he says, uh, this, I understand the profundity of what you're saying, hey Krishna, but then I'm not able to appreciate the whole. I mean, the vision that you have is so big that my mind is not, I'm not able to appreciate chanchalatva. He gives a reason. He says because the mind is agitated. That's what he says. Okay, we saw that also. And then he continues the question in the verse number 34. And then he is more explicit here. He says manaha. Manaha is the noun in that first line of the shloka number 34. Manaha chanchalam hi. The mind is indeed chanchal. Man chanchal hai. And it doesn't seem to stay put. And that is a problem of Krishna. That's what he says. So he's already diagnosing the problem, Arjuna. And then he's addressing Sri Krishna as Krishna. And he doesn't use any other word. And here, Bhagavan Bhashikara, Shankaracharya gives a definition for the word Sri Krishna. Okay. So sometimes we ask the question, what is the definition of a particular word? What does it mean, etc.? And oftentimes, many meanings can be given to a word. And so there is no one definition. And where do you get these definitions from? Well, from the root of the word, of course. But then often we rely on our acharyas, like Shankara has given. Shankara defines words when he explains. It's his way of explaining words. And then we pick up that and we say that is the definition of the word. So here he says, this krish, okay, dhatu, akarshana, akarshati. Akarshati means one who removes. One who removes is called Krishna. One who removes is called Krishna. Okay. What does he remove? Okay. Dosha akarshana. Dosha akarshana. So dosha in this context, doshas mean anything that you don't want is a dosha. Okay. Anything that you don't want in life. That includes dukkha also. And then if that includes papam, that also is dosha. And then all those things are removed. Dosha akarshana. Then he continues. Bhakta jana papadi dosha. So he defines dosha as papadi, papa, etc. Okay. Those doshas, the one who removes. And for whom? Who's papadi? Bhakta jana papadi. Those who worship Krishna, those who are devotees of Krishna. Okay. For that person, that person is called Krishna. Akarshati. And so addressing Krishna like that, here Acharyas argue that, hey, he's invoking Krishna. Hey, I need your help. I need your help. I need more. You've told me a lot, and now I need to absorb all that. Absorb. It's all there, and it's not sticking to me. Okay, that's the message, which we can all relate to that. And so, and he says mana, mind. My mind is like that. Manaha hi chanchalam. Hey Krishna, mind is agitated. I thought I was in control of everything. I'm here, I'm sitting in a middle of a battlefield, I'm ready to fight. And now I find that, the entire army is in my control. And I know I'm going to be victorious in this war. Throughout, there is no indication in the Mahabharata that Arjuna was afraid of the war. No indication at all. Okay. And he's going to be victorious. He's very sure about that. He's worried for other people. He's worried about all the people who are going to get killed and their wives and families and things like that. Okay, that is his concern. And so here he says, he's kind of just said, and I need help. Okay. Always, Puja Swami used to say, intelligent living. Intelligent living is asking for help when help is needed. And I think that's where Arjuna is here, asking for help. And why? How come you're not able to control your mind? You control everything in this world. The whole army is there waiting for you. The kingdom is there. You've not been a king, but king, you know, you've led. Essentially, you've seen your parents. You've seen you are the de facto king, and it's just a matter of sitting on the throne. That is the only thing that has not happened. Everything else you are capable of doing. And now what happened? Your own mind, which is there here, you don't have to go anywhere. Search for the mind also. That mind, okay, that mind is a topic of discussion. It's always been the topic of discussion in every generation. And obviously in Krishna and Arjuna generation also, it's been a topic. We can see that. And something over which we seem to have no control. Okay. And we are frustrated. We don't want to be frustrated. We are angry. We don't want to be angry. We are sad. We don't want to be sad. So the mind keeps on. We become what we don't want to be. You know, that's the irony of this mind. And so it seems to take charge without apparently asking for my permission. It seems to take charge, especially in these bouts of anger and things like that. And you know, we grow up, we learn a lot, we get our degrees, we learn how to speak, then we become very aware. Culturally aware. Our language becomes very fine. You know, the child says ni, va, po, etc. Child says, addresses everybody. And you know, grandfather, grandmother, you know, guests are coming, and then ni enna saapidra. And then ni enna saapidra means, what do you want to eat? I mean, itself is a big thing. And then you, ni. In our language, you don't address elders as ni. Nuvu, tum nahi bolte. Aap. And then miru, ningal, like that we say. So child doesn't know all that. And child is free, and then the guests also know that the child doesn't know. Therefore, there is no insult here. And so it's beautiful. And then slowly the child begins to learn. Ni, ningal. Tum, aap. Tu, aap. Like that, all these things the child learns. And then still more advanced. And Bhavan, in Sanskrit we learn Bhavan. Bhavan and Bhavati. And that's even more advanced. Bhavan is not even aap. Bhavan is third person. From second person, it goes to some kind of a respectful second person, correct? Then it goes to third person. Would he like to have dinner? Would our guest like to have dinner? Hey, you are the guest, you are talking to the guest. Why don't you just say, would you like to have dinner? No, would our guest like to have dinner? And very interesting it is. And then of course sannyasis and all, we interact with sannyasis. We never tell sannyasi that would you like to have a little more, one more chapati? No way, we don't say that. I'd like to serve one more roti. Okay, I'd like to serve. Put the burden on oneself. I'd like to serve. And can I serve one more roti? If you want to use Swamiji's name, would Swamiji like to have one more roti? Maybe that is acceptable. That is more respectful, correct? And that's how this culture is. Very beautiful it is. How do you even explain this to somebody who's not in this culture, a person in the West? Okay. So all this culture is there. And then the person is seized with anger. And that's it. What words come out of the person's mouth is anybody's guess. Correct? Anybody's guess. Hey, what happened? You're studying Vedanta and all that. And what is all the words that coming out of your mouth? And so this is what happened. What happened? Well, there are two people. One is a cultured, very sophisticated person, knowledgeable person, compassionate person. And the other side is God. Even that person doesn't know. Did I speak like this? Did I speak like that? Yeah, that is what happens. So this manaha is like that, it seems. And so so this Swamiji makes an important observation here. Hunger happens without asking my permission. Thirst, some of these things, these biological events in the body, it keeps happening, keeps on happening. Things keep moving, things keep processing, getting processed, and then hunger happens, and then I go eat, and then thirst happens, I go drink. All these things are automatic. So thirst does not ask my permission, it just happens. But then somebody makes a point. What about sadness? What about sadness? Do I become sad? No, I do become sad, no doubt, and I don't want to be sad. But then somebody makes an observation that there's a lot of thinking that happens before one becomes sad. Before one becomes sad, there's a particular type of thinking that allows me to become sad. Okay, sadness happen. There is a particular type of thinking. What thinking is that? That I am a victim, therefore I can become sad. That is a fundamental thing that is there, and then born of the ignorance, of course, avidya is there. So like that, a lot of conclusions are there, and finally I do become sad. So that awareness we now have, obviously. In fact, Swamiji would say that in order to be sad, angry, frustrated, hateful, depressed, etc., I must do a lot of thinking. That is what he says. So I must know how to think, and I've done a lot of thinking, and then because of which I'm sad. Now what Vedanta is trying to do is trying to undo all that thinking by showing the error in all those thinking, and then free ourselves. That's the process we are going through. And so here, the cultured person is there, and then the other person, the person who Krishna here calls as Pramathi. Pramathi means Pramathin, okay, Napumsaka. So Pramati means enemy. Enemy, my God. This mind is as though an enemy. And somebody has taken over, somebody has hijacked us. If you have not been in an hijacking, we've at least seen hijacking. We've seen a lot of movies, hijacking and all that, flights and whatnot. And those days, there's a movie comes to my mind long ago. It's called Silver Streak. And this the train gets hijacked. And then it's just that fellow just wants to crash the train. And so hijacking. So totally lost control to some foreign entity that has no desire to help us, wants to destroy us. And so that kind of Pramathi, Krishna uses Arjuna uses a very strong word here, Pramathi. This mind is a Pramathi. It's an enemy. My God. All along he's been planning for the war and all that. And he's planning to attack enemies using the mind. But now he says the mind is my enemy. What a strong word is used. A tyrant. And in fact, Pramathi means tyrant. And somebody who just takes control, hijacks ourselves. And so therefore, okay, so hijacker is there. There are people, there are commandos who can deal with hijackers, And so like that, why don't I come up with some way to take control of my mind, which is trying to take charge of me. Okay. No, that also he says is not possible. He says Balavat, this Pramathi, this tyrant, is not an ordinary fellow, he's a strong fellow. Balavat. Balavan is masculine. Balavat is Napumsakam. Okay, neuter. Look at the language, how beautiful it is. Just adjust to each other. Because manaha, mind in Sanskrit is neuter gender, Napumsakam. Therefore, here Arjuna uses the word Balavat. If it was masculine, then he would have said Balavan. Okay, so very interesting. Then, so mind is strong. Therefore, I can't simply take control of my mind. I can use some trick to take control of my mind. And because it's very strong, balavat, very strong. And so I can't just wriggle out of it. And it's not possible. Okay. And he also uses another word, dridham, dridham, dridham. Its hold, its grasp is strong, and it is well rooted also. It has this habit for a long time. It's very good at that, and so it seems to have had a lot of practice. And I am the one just now discovering that the mind is a pramati, but it's been a pramati for a long time. So it's dridam. So it's like, you grow all these, those who do gardening are very aware of this, and constantly watching and taking care of the flowers, flower plants and vegetable plants and all that, and maybe some herbs and all that. And so there is always this, you have to keep an eye for these weeds. And 1 week you go for a vacation and come back, and suddenly you find that the weeds have become taller than the plant itself. That's enough. And then you say, I'll come tomorrow. By that time, these roots have just gone inside and they encircle the plant itself. And you try to remove the weed, and the plant itself gets dislodged. And so the roots have taken root, and that is the meaning of this word dridam. and here Swami jokes. He says, storms generally uproot things. But the mind cannot be uprooted by any storm. No storm can uproot the mind, and no amount of brainstorming also can uproot the mind. That's what he says. Okay, so we should share that humor of Swamiji. And then he comes to a topic that Swamiji loves very much. He says the mind has its roots in the childhood of the childhood. And very important topic, psychology here. And so we will talk a little more about that. And tasyaham nigraham manye. Tasya manasaha. Tasya here means of that manasaha, of that mind. Aham nigraham manye. Aham manye. I consider, I think, I believe that mind to be nigraham. And nigraham means to control. Dushkaram nigraham. Dushkaram is the adjective that goes with nigraham. And difficult to control, difficult to take charge of, difficult. He doesn't say impossible, he says difficult, dushkaram. And I'm sure in Hindi also this word dushkaram will be there. We don't use that in Tamil. We don't use that word that often at all. I've not heard it, but it's a pure Sanskrit word. Dushkaram. Dushkaram means kara to do, dushkara difficult to do, difficult to accomplish. Sudushkaram, the su just emphasizes that dushkaram, and so very difficult to master, to control, take charge of. Nigraham. Manye, he uses the word manye. Very interesting. He uses the word manye. Man means jnane. Man is to know, to think. And man root in Sanskrit. Atmanepadi. Fourth group. Chaturtha gana. And so what is it? Atmanepadi, obviously. Manye. So manye, manyavahe, manyamahe. Manyate, manyete, manyante. Manyase, manyethe, manyadve. Manye, manyavahe, manyamahe. So he's talking about the mind, which is manas. Okay. And he considers the mind. That considering also root is man. Look at that. Very interesting. And the English word for man also is mind. Okay, this mandatu is not ordinary, obviously. It has taken root, it seems, in Sanskrit and in English also. And I found that to be interesting. So, Dushka, I consider it to be difficult to control. Okay, Vayo river. he gives an example. Vayoho iva. Vayuhu. Like the wind. Like the wind. Okay. So there is no question of trapping the wind. There's no question of saying, I'm going to encircle the wind. I'm going to hug the wind. All these things are not possible because the wind will go where it wants to go, and nobody can trap this wind. And which we know now. Now that we've started doing meditation, we have recognized it. That this mind, I started chanting Om Namah Shivaya, and then I ended up with something else. Ended up with my neighbor Shiva, and his trip, wonderful trip, he went and all that. And I started thinking about the party I had, and where they explained all about there. And then my mind meditation session has become a kind of a reveling session where I could think of all the things that Shiva was telling. And then you come back and say, what happened? When did I do this? When did I? So that when also gone. Lost track of time also. How long I've been thinking of my neighbor, I don't know. And so that's how it is. That's how it is. And we'll see how Krishna responds to that. And so that is very obvious. Therefore, it's clear that mind cannot be trapped. Suppose you say, no, I have a lot of tricks in my bag. I'm going to trap my mind. And then I trap my mind. And finally, all this happens, and then the mind says, what happened? Did you trap it? Oh, what happened? I thought you trapped me. And then my mind says, no. Are you trapping me? I am the trapper. I am the trapper. Who are you to trap? Like that, the mind will argue. And so it is impossible. The mind is elusive. Can't take charge of that. And this said by Arjuna at a time when so people talk about stress and things like that. I was taken aback, when many years ago, when I was, we talk about being busy and being in a hurry and stress and tension and all this, depression, this, that, we talk about so many things. And one child who's hardly 6, 7, 8 years old, suddenly she used the word stress and tension. That's when I got shocked. I said, oh my God, this child is talking about it. That means what? That means the way of life has become like that we were unable to even insulate the child from these things. Is it not? And child talks about tension. Then that word itself coming from a child, I found it to be it saddened me actually. When that happened, I said, oh boy, this is, we have to be very responsible. We have to live very responsibly. And so this is the age we are living in. And those days, 5,000 years ago, Krishna's time, Arjuna's time. And there, Arjuna, he had no emotional problems, really speaking. He was in charge, and he dotted the I's and crossed the T's, and he did whatever is to be done. And he fought battles, wars, everything he has done. He fought against Shiva himself. And so he has no problem. Dharma is not a problem for him. So he has no conflicts. I don't think he would have had a sleepless night thinking about conflicts. Sleepless night thinking about Duryodhana can be there. How these fellows, they're constantly, they're cheating me. And so I need to get back to him, that kind of thing. So this Arjuna here, we're talking about Arjuna. Yeah, 1 second. So 5,000 years ago, we thought our life was stressful and busy and this and that. And Arjuna is saying, my mind is agitated. And what a joke it is. What to talk about people like us here. And when Arjuna himself is talking like this. And so that problem, Arjuna, very clear. And Krishna is going to validate this. And so it's a universal problem. So we can be happy that Arjuna has the same problem that I have. Okay, like that we can be happy. So we don't have to say, this life is very tough and that. Don't worry about all that. It's all the same. All times these problems are going to be there. And yeah, true that our times are different. So we are not trying to deny the problem. Okay, something happened in Afghanistan. Afghanistan, we don't even know where in the map it is. And then suddenly the news are saying this and people are getting killed and this and that. over. The minute you wake up, the news is blaring. And so obviously it's going to stress us out, even though it's far away, etc. Remote. It's remote, but it's not remote also. So we don't like to hear people getting killed anywhere in the world. And so tornado, storm, this, that's happened somewhere, but it's already there on your telephone. It's already there. And so this news just comes non-stop, non-stop news. And good news is good, but all news is not good. And so uh, suppose you say, no, Guruji, I've become very smart now, and I've stopped watching the news, But then there is something called WhatsApp. And then you don't need a television, you don't need anything. You don't need anything. And people learn. We are all students of WhatsApp University, correct? And so that's what this. I saw that phrase used somewhere. I found it to be very apt. And then people talk about all Ayurveda onwards, A to Z. You can learn anything you want. WhatsApp, all you have to do is be on WhatsApp. Be on a few groups, and then you learn everything. You want Dharma, D for Dharma. Yeah, that also WhatsApp University. What else? You want to know about animals? Zebra? Yeah, that also you can know. Sooner or later, you'll get a message about the wonders of zebra. Okay. And so, like this, it goes. So, here, this is Arjuna's question. And Arjuna makes an admission that his mind is chanchalam, agitated. So, let's translate this shloka, number 34. In fact, Krishna, the mind is, within quotes, agitation. The mind is agitation. So he doesn't say mind is agitated. Manaha hi chanchala. So mind is equal to agitation. Synonymous, he says, mind is synonymous with agitation. Okay, the mind is agitation, within quotes, comma, a strong, comma, a strong, well-rooted tyrant or tyrant, full stop. The mind is agitation, comma, a strong, comma, well-rooted tyrant, full stop. I think of it as impossible to control, as the wind. I think of it as impossible to control as the wind, like the wind. So that's a straightforward shloka here. So let's look at the next one. So let me repeat the translation. In fact, Krishna, the mind is agitation, within quotes, comma, a strong, comma, well-rooted tyrant, full stop. I think of it as impossible to control as the wind. Okay. Okay. Yeah, Mohini. Shri Bhagavanuvāca. Okay, I have to.
Okay.
Shri Bhagavanuvāca.
Shri Bhagavanuvāca.
Asamshayam Mahabaho.
Asamshayam Mahabaho.
Mano Durnigraham Chalam.
Mano Durnigraham Chalam.
Abhyasena tu Kaunteya.
Abhyasena tu Kaunteya.
Vairagyena cha Grihyate.
Vairagyena cha Gruhyate.
Shri Bhagavanuvāca.
Shri Bhagavanuvāca.
Asamshayam Mahabaho.
Asamshayam Mahabaho.
Mano Durnigraham Chalam.
Mano durnigraham chalam.
Abhyasena tu kaunteya
Abhyasena tu kaunteya.
vairagyena cha grihyate.
Vairagyena cha gruhyate.
So, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, Bhagavan responds to Arjuna's observation. I don't think Arjuna asked a question per se, right? He is just saying, Manaha Chanchalam, he says, and then leaves it at that. Tasya aham nigraham mane, I find it difficult to control. That's all he says. I don't see a question here. He says, with the previous shloka, he says, I find it difficult to follow what you said. Okay, and he says the mind is difficult to control. That's all he says. He's not asking a question per se. Okay, so therefore, here, Bhagavan's response is like this. Asamshayam. Yes, no doubt. He says, Manaha durnigraham chalam. He uses the same words as Arjuna's words. Manaha, same word. Durnigraham. Durnigraham is that Sudushkaram Nigraham from the previous shloka. Durnigraham. So difficult to control. And chalam. Chanchalam. Same word as Arjuna's word, chanchalam. Correct? So all these three words, manaha, nigraham, and chalam is used, except for the word dridam, is used all other words here. Okay. So which means what? And then that is asamshayam, he says. Asamshayam. Samshaya means sandeha. Sandeha means doubt. Asamshayam means without a doubt. Indeed. Absolutely. You know, sometimes we say absolutely, you know. And so that is what is Krishna is saying, absolutely. He's saying, absolutely, you're right. No doubt about that. And he addresses, Bhagavan addresses Arjuna as Mahabaho, one mighty armed, one, the Mahabaho. And as though teasing this Arjuna, Mahabaho, you're not an ordinary guy, you're a warrior, you are the de facto leader of this society. And yeah, so I'm happy that you admitted that the mind is difficult to control. And couple of weeks back, somebody said they went to this place near Coimbatore. It's called Wellington, and that is where this our Bipin Rawat was going to address the graduates of this Defense Services Staff College, which is when the mishap happened, where his helicopter crashed. And so that place, Wellington, and then she sent a picture of this Arjuna. Arjuna's picture is a statue is there, one or more statues, I think, but one was there, and is just standing. What a sight it was to watch him, and with a bow in his hand. And so that Arjuna, okay, that Arjuna. And this Wellington is about 70 kilometers north of Coimbatore. And she said the museum there is fantastic. And we should go and watch like that, she was saying. And so that Mahabaho, that Arjuna, hey, you're not an ordinary guy. You're an accomplished, highly accomplished, and you're the de facto leader. But yeah, you're right. You're right that you can be a Mahabahu, but that does not mean that you have a special control, special mastery over your mind. Correct? Now, that doesn't make you anything special when it comes to your mind. That is what Krishna seems to be saying here. And but then Asamshayam. So Krishna must have been happy also, because the first step towards recognizing that the mind is agitated or frustrated or depressed is to acknowledge that I am depressed. Correct? Every psychologist will tell you, every mature person, you don't need to be a psychologist to say, I think I'm depressed. That's it. The minute I say that, that itself is half the battle won. More than half the battle, more than half. Okay. I think addiction. I think I am addicted to alcohol. Correct? Alcoholics Anonymous. That is the first step in that 12-step program. What is the first step? First step is acceptance. Acceptance. And we accepted that we were powerless against alcohol and that our lives have become unmanageable. Okay, that is the first step of the 12-step or 10-step Alcoholics Anonymous. That's acceptance. First step, accept. Because this families of alcoholics, this is always a big problem. And you tell the person, hey, you can't be drinking like this. And that person just goes after it, and just seems to go into a vortex. And there's no question of this person. Even listening to family members or friends, no chance, won't work. And so that's, so here again, same thing. Krishna is saying, yeah, correct. Accepting that the mind is what it is. And it seems to be like a child just running around, and let's accept that. And and so that's important to know, because when somebody comes to us and says, my mind is concerned, I'm sad because of this, the Swami always used to say, don't tell that person, don't be sad. Okay, that don't be sad is wrong advice, because it is as though that person doesn't know that they should not be sad. It is actually putting them down. You should not say that. Don't be sad. You can discuss the problem. What exactly is it that is making you sad? And let's discuss it. And let's find a way out of it. Then that is helpful. That is what is helpful. But don't be sad. You are sad for small things, you add like, it's like adding salt to wound, you're sad for small things. Hey, the person has already said he's sad, she's sad. Now you are sad for small things means you're making fun of me, right? And as though I don't know. It becomes like that. So we have to be very careful, these kinds of advice, and don't become sad, don't get agitated. In a matter of speaking, it may be okay. But then you take it further, discuss further. Yeah, I think it's a problem that's solvable, and let's discuss that. So that's useful advice. And so here, same thing here also. Krishna doesn't say, don't allow your mind to get agitated. Like that doesn't say. It says, no, the mind is like that. So it's a validation of what we know. And psychologists also can get that validation from Sri Krishna here. And so that mind is like that. And Shankara uses the word kshanika. Kshanika, it's all momentum. Mind is constantly, the thoughts of the mind are constantly changing. And I don't know, so I'm sure scientists have tried to measure observe the mind, etc., and thought processes and whatnot. But without measuring, we know that the mind is constantly changing. Even if you are observing something, a tree or a star or something outside, and you're enjoying that moment, that enjoyment also is there. And even there, even though it's a fixed thing in the mind, still there is the change of constant observation. And so that mind is constantly changing, and it will change. Every thought is different from the thought that happened before, just a few seconds ago. It's all different. And that's how it should be. That's how the mind should be. Otherwise, you will not have a perception. Perception is possible because of change of a vritti. And so we never put down that aspect. That's what the mind is. The mind is meant to keep showing us different vrittis. Only then perception happens, experience happens, conversations happen, interactions happen. Every transaction implies change. And so we're not worried about change. We should not be worried about change. And so trying to put down this mind, etc., all these things, we have to just walk away from that kind of an idea. And so here he says, chanchalam, asamshayam mahabaho mano durnigraham chalam. Krishna uses the word chalam. And manaha durnigraham, he says, and indeed very difficult to grasp, keep the mind in one place, seems to be very difficult. And so accepting completely word to word what Arjuna has said. Very important. Okay. And so it has its own ways of functioning, the mind, and we may or may not understand it, and doesn't matter. Even if you understand it, the mind is going to be like that. Even if you don't understand it, the mind is going to be like that. Okay. And Swami Tadatmananda, his example comes to my mind. And we have all these prayer, we have prarthana, we have japa, we have puja, we have utsavas, we celebrate. And very important, because it is a way to keep the mind occupied in a proper way. Hobbies, of course, bring in all the things that help us. Why do hobbies help us? Because the mind needs to, because the mind is constantly moving around, constantly wanting to do something or the other. So give it something good for the mind itself to do. And Swami Tadatmananda gives the example. The mahout, the elephant is walking in this market, vegetable market, fruit market, okay, in India. And both sides there are stores, and they have heaps and heaps of fruits and vegetables. Imagine elephant walking through this, okay? And elephant is a vegetarian, okay? So what it needs is these kinds of things, fruits and vegetables, it can perfectly well gobble up. And then it keeps picking up like this. Okay, picks up like this. And walking and then picking up like this. And how are you going to control this elephant? And the mahout knows the trick. And he gives the elephant a stick to hold on to. Just gives the stick that is in his hand, now is in the hand of the trunk of the elephant, and the elephant holds on to the stick. And then it goes to all these fruits, mango. It wants to have the mango, but it can't. Just does like this. Because its job has been given to it. Job. Keeps going. It doesn't touch anything. It can't touch anything. Amazing it is. Absolutely amazing. The elephant seems to be helpless. It wants to consume all the mangoes, but it can't touch it at all. And the mahout seems to know exactly what is the way to control this elephant. Absolutely amazing. Going through the middle of a market. Okay. And I got reminded of that. And so that is why all these classes are important. All the japa sessions are important. Yoga is important. All these things we bring in our life so that this mind is going to be running around. There's no way to stop it. Better put it to proper use and associate with good friends and good elders and good satsangas, etc. Always good and always helps us. We need that. And that's why people who don't do that, often, they can get, they don't have a good hobby, good profession that can keep them busy. They can get carried away. Okay. So mind here, Krishna says, it has its own logic. It's not like mind is illogical, and we just don't understand the logic behind it. That's all. And that does not mean the mind is logical or illogical, rather. And so should I just leave it like this? I'm frustrated, I'm depressed, I'm sad, I can't, running around like an elephant, like a child in the room running around. Should I just leave it like that? No, not needed to leave it like that. So we start. This is why now the trick is next level. Once I get through all these, all these hobbies and this and that on there, then prarthana, puja, etc., then dhyanam, then Vedanta, Shravanam, of course, comes into play. And then I begin to recognize that while the mind is very much I am not the mind. I am the observer of the mind. I'm the observer, not the mind. And therefore, I don't have to take on the burden of the qualities of the mind. Okay. Mind is agitated. Okay. It will be agitated periodically, and nobody can stop that. But now that I'm studying Vedanta, I know very well now that the mind is I, but I am not the mind. And Krishna is going to say here, Abhyasena tu kaunteya, vairagyena cha grihyate. Krishna is giving the answer to how to master that mind. So that is an interesting thing. Here he uses, in the first line, he addresses Arjuna as Mahabaho. In the second line, he addresses Arjuna as what? Kaunteya. Kaunteya. So we will see it's a very significant use of words. We will see the significance in the next class and continue the discussion also. Okay. Om Swasti Prajabhyah Paripalayantam Nyayena Markena Mahishaah Go Brahmanebhyah Shubhamastu Nityam Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Kale Varshatu Parjanyah Prithvi Sasya Shalini Desho Yam Kshobarahitah Brahmanas Santu Nirbhayah Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Asato Ma Satgamaya Tabaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritangamaya Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om.